Hi, welcome to my channel. This is going to be Pimsleur review for Pimsleur French Level 1. Today is May 2023. I actually right now on Level 3 Pimsleur Lesson 4, but this review is going to be for Pimsleur Level 1 French. My name is Vlad. I'm from Canada. I have been living in Canada for 20 years. English is my second language, but I learned it through going to school and just being living in the English language country. I don't have pretty much any knowledge of French. When I was in grade 9, which was about 17 or 18 years ago, I had to take one semester of French in order to graduate. It was an introductory French. I took that, but I forgot everything since then. And for a few words like merci, beaucoup, maybe noir, or something like that. But pretty much I had no prior knowledge of French before doing Pimsleur. As well, I live in Toronto, Canada. This is an English-speaking part of Canada, so I do not interact with any French during my everyday life. In June 2022, I decided that I'm going to be learning languages as my hobby. I never thought that I will go back to learn languages because English was very difficult to learn for me. But I decided that I wanted to again start learning a new language. And so the first language will be French, which is why I'm doing a review on Pimsleur French right now. So I started in June 2022 with Pimsleur French. I already knew that if I ever had to learn a language, I would start using Pimsleur. And there is a reason for this, but I'm not going to talk about this reason in this video. It will probably be its own video at some point. Anyway, so in June 2022, I went to the Pimsleur website and I signed up for the 7-day trial. But I knew that I would just continue the trial after that because I had the goal to learn French or to start learning French. Originally, I signed up for the audio-only version of the Pimsleur program. And then I switched to the premium version on lesson 16 of Pimsleur Level 1 French. There is a specific reason for that. Basically, you are able to learn French or any other language better if you have the premium version. So if you are starting to learn any language with Pimsleur, I recommend to you to start with premium as well and do not start using the audio-only version. I will come back to that later in my video. Now, I did record actually a small piece of video of me speaking French back in I think September or October 2022 when I finished the Pimsleur Level 1, and I'm going to insert this little video in a few seconds. I have to say that I did write it down before speaking it, but that was mostly to make sense of what I'm saying. Okay, here it is. Bonjour, je suis Vladimir, j'habite au Canada, je voudrais visiter Paris et Marseille, je parle un peu français, je ne comprends pas très bien français, je voudrais déjeuner à 8 heures au restaurant je voudrais manger et boire quelque chose. Je voudrais boire du vin et de l'eau. Ça fait. Est-ce que je dois combien? Je vous dois combien? 21 euros. Voilà. Merci. Au revoir. Now, I would like to tell you about how I went on learning French with Pimsleur. I have to say that in the beginning, most of the Pimsleur Level 1, I was pretty excited because it was new and I wanted to do it. And I think everybody is kind of excited about the first, starting to learn a new language or doing something new. Anyway, so the first five, maybe 4 lessons or 5 lessons, maybe the first 4 lessons are very easy. And you learn a lot, and it's fun and it's interesting, and so it's very good. Now, when I started doing Pimsleur for level 1, I would do each lesson twice, and between lesson 1 and 5, I did each lesson twice. Then even up to lesson 10, from 5 to 10, I did do as well each lesson twice. It was starting to get harder, but I still only did it twice. And I also did Pimsleur every day, but only one half an hour session, whether a new one or a repetition of the prior session. But when I got to lesson 16 in Pimsleur level 1, things got a lot harder, and I realized that I will not be able to probably do it only twice. I would need to repeat the lessons 3 times, and maybe even 4. But I realized 2 times wasn't enough because I wasn't learning it as fast as I did the prior lessons before that. So so going forward, I was doing each lesson more like 3 times, sometimes 4 times. That's lessons from 16 on. I have to say in general that Pimsleur level 1, and actually all the Pimsleur levels, the lessons change. Like, so every 2 to 5 lessons, the structure will change and the difficulty level will change as well. So you can have, for example, 2 lessons or 3 lessons which are about the same difficulty level and on a similar subject, and then it will just switch to something else and the difficulty level can go up. And especially, so every 3 to 5 lessons, it gets harder and as for you to do the lessons. I'm going to say that from starting, so there is the breakdown is like this: 1 to 5, and then roughly from about 6 to 11, and then 11 to 16, and then you go to the 22 or the 23. That's where things again get harder, and the reason things get harder around 23 or 24 is because they start to give more instructions in French. So before this, all the instructions are in English, but then they start giving instructions in French, and the first time you do that lesson, you're kind of shocked because you weren't expecting this, and you're still like new to the language. So like it does it takes some time to get used to. Now, not all the instructions are in French, but it's just they are increasing the number of instructions in French. This is the first time they do it around lesson 23 or 24 in level 1, and then they also do it later in level 2 and level 3. But overall, that's why it gets harder. Also, the sentences, the phrases get longer, and that's why it gets harder. So overall, I would say that every 3 to 5 lessons, your topics get, the words and the phrases get harder. Also, the speed of the way you're supposed to say it and the speed of the person talking may increase as well. It's still doable, it's still fine, but it does increase. And that's why, as Pimsleur is like, you can be doing fine, and then you go to the next lesson and it's like a complete shock. You're like, I can't do this. But what happens is, if you go to the new lesson and it's very hard in the first time you do it, I found that all you have to do is just do it more times, and the more times you do it, the easier and easier it gets. And I found that for level 1 Pimsleur, you're okay to do each lesson probably 2 to 3 times, maybe 4 times. I say this, that's what I did, and every person might be different. And so if you just need, if you feel like you're you need a little bit more practice. Just do a few more times the same lesson. It's fine. There's no problem doing that, and it actually helps you a lot, because then you really learn this information, and then you go to the next lesson and next lesson, and it really helps you down the road. um, yes, I will also say that some lessons are very could be like, doesn't matter how many times you do a lesson, you still don't feel very much comfortable, or like the lesson. In that case, for Pimsleur Level 1, uh, this is French, or any other Pimsleur level, I would suggest, if you do it 6 times, one lesson, and you feel like you still don't um, know it well, I suggest that you just move to the next lesson, because I found that works fine. I only had this problem with a few lessons in Pimsleur, and I would just go to the next lesson and it's fine. You don't need to like stress out about one lesson that you can't seem to really learn well, because it does repeat itself in the future lesson to some degree, and even the lesson after that. But I will still say you need to learn each lesson very well, because if you learn each lesson well, then all the lesson after that it's much easier to do. Makes more sense, and it's more fun to do. So absolutely, make sure you learn the lesson well. I have to say that Pimsleur is they're very interesting in terms of what they say. They tell you to do, one lesson every day, but it is impossible. So I don't know what marketing person for Pimsleur did this, but basically that's impossible. The only way you could do one new lesson per day, is if you already know French, if you already have been studying French, and pretty much if this is only a review for you. If that's the case, yes, you could do one lesson a day of every day if you already know a good amount of French. If you're new and you're just starting out, there is no way you're going to do one lesson a day of Pimsleur, a new one. I'm talking about a new one. So please disregard this message from Pimsleur, because it's not true. As I said, I'm right now on level 3, lesson 4. So I've done already 2 levels, and I can tell you that from my experience, there is no way. But that's okay. You can just do the same lesson, 2, 3, 4 times, or 5 times, or 6 times. As many times as I need. As I said, for Pimsleur Level 1, I suggest it to be about 3 to 4 times. I would say, 3 to 4 times, depending on the lesson for Pimsleur Level 1 of French specifically. Okay, now I will say that the key in Pimsleur is studying every day is the best. Now, if you skip a day or two, I mean, that's fine. But I found that if you're able to do Pimsleur every day, even if it's 10-15 minutes, it's very helpful. The best is to do one lesson a day that you have to do, and especially when doing the French, the first level of the Pimsleur. The reason it's important to do one every day is because you keep the growth going forward. And once you finish French level 1 or any other level of Pimsleur, you end up kind of learning a bunch of things that kind of stay in your head, and that's important. And it's good to keep it all together. That's really the key. Also, I will say that after I finished Pimsleur level 1 of French, there is actually another video I have, which I made at that exact time, which was back, I think, in September 2022. And I will upload this video hopefully soon. And that video was done late at night, so excuse my appearance there. But there's some extra information in that video. After I finished Pimsleur level 1, I went back to the first kind of lesson I guess 1 to 8 of Pimsleur 1, and to me, those lessons, when I did them for the first time, they were very kind of hard and like new and stuff. But after finishing Pimsleur Level 1, I found that it was very much like it was good. I liked it, and it was easy to answer do those lessons, and I knew like 90% of it, and so I was surprised how much stayed with me after level 1, doing Pimsleur level 1. And so it really, comparing, because like I said, like English is my second language, and so I kind of know how what it takes to learn a language. And so Pimsleur is very much faster, and the reason for this, it goes right into your kind of unconscious mind. Instead of you trying to think here, it's kind of already in the back, and that's why I really it's good. I don't think, if there was no Pimsleur, I'm not sure that I would have decided to learn another language, especially French. Now I have to say that the reason Pimsleur is good for French is because, as many of you probably know, the way you say something in French is very different from how you write the same thing in French. So it's like speaking French and written French are two different languages. And I suggest that you learn French by listening, like Pimsleur, and that will really help you to, get the right pronunciation going with Pimsleur. On the pronunciation note, I will say that around basically lesson 13, 14, 15, I found that my pronunciation of French got very, very good, especially the R. I started to, make the French R better, not perfect, but better. And everything else in pronunciation got better after about lesson 15, around lesson 15. So that's a very good thing, and that's why I strongly recommend Pimsleur. I also have seen a lot of YouTubers say that, some people who have used Pimsleur, they have been told they have a good pronunciation in French. So that's good. Now, I will also say that for the Pimsleur application, the way I use Pimsleur is on my phone. You could use the Pimsleur on the computer, but I use it once on the computer from all this time. The rest of the time I use Pimsleur on my phone, and I have the earbuds. Also, a big recommendation is to use some kind of an earbud that goes into your ear when you're doing Pimsleur, because then you're able to hear the sound much better and pronounce the words correctly. Instead, if you were listening to it on like a speaker, I don't think it's as good as having an earbud that's going into your ear. So that would be my recommendation for doing the lessons. I use my phone. You're also able to add I think up to 4 or 3 family members. You can in the account you can create like users, and everybody can have it on their phone and they can learn. So if you have somebody else that you want to share the Pimsleur basically with, like your spouse or somebody else, your partner, you could use that, or even your kids or someone else like that. That's useful. So even though Pimsleur might be on a little bit expensive side in terms of language learning apps, I absolutely believe that it's worth the money that it requires for payment. And yeah, that's what I think about it. I think Pimsleur is a very good program, and I would strongly recommend to anybody doing any language learning, if the language is available on Pimsleur that you're trying to learn, because not all languages are available, and some languages only have level 1 or level 2 or level 1 and 2 on Pimsleur. I want to come back to the audio version of Pimsleur versus the premium version of Pimsleur. The difference in the audio version is you only get the audio and you get a PDF file for reading, because actually in Pimsleur lessons there is a reading lesson after each lesson. It's very short, and you have to read following what the person says to you. So you're basically trying to train your reading ability of French, so you're not only able to pronounce, you're able to also to read. So in the audio version, you just get the MP3 kind of to play, okay, and then you get the PDF for the audio, for the reading lesson. Now, in the premium version of Pimsleur, you get flashcards, which are the main words for that level. You also get like review, little sentences, like phrases for review after you complete the lesson. There is also a voice, kind of a voice checker or AI, little thing that you can say it, and it says if you're pronouncing it correctly. But I like that feature, not actually the one that checks my pronunciation, but because before it checks your pronunciation, you can press it and it can tell you how to pronounce it, and you're also able to see the actual phrase written in French, so it is good for that. Now, I have to say that I did not use a lot of, those extra features from Pimsleur. What I normally do is I just listen to the Pimsleur audio and repeat as required. I will, on my second time listening to the level, I will usually look at flashcards, okay, and once in a while I will look at like the voice AI thing for extra practice or for other review. There is like phrases review, okay. That's just me. I think that you can use more of that and learn faster, but I found that the majority of what I've learned was just through repeating the lesson in Pimsleur, and that's essentially 90% of my learning came from just repeating the lesson in Pimsleur, and I strongly recommend doing that. Also, in terms of how to do it, in the beginning, almost all my lessons for French level 1, I would literally go, put my earbuds in my ears and sit down on a sofa, and I would be doing the lesson with my closed eyes, and I would be focusing on the pronunciation of each word and trying to answer the best I could to learn the pronunciation and language. Now, that was very good in the beginning, but I found later on I was busy with like stuff, and so I couldn't sometimes sit down to do the French lesson. So I found that I could, for example, be doing some cleaning or cooking or something like that, and I could just run the lesson. I would maybe learn a bit less, but that's fine. I would just repeat the lesson a few more times, and that would be fine. So if you're very busy, I would recommend still do Pimsleur, still do it. Just find a way, to squeeze it in your activities that you're doing anyway. Especially it's good if you go for walks, or you do some house chores. Now you can also do Pimsleur when you're driving. I would just say that see if depending on situation, on the traffic and weather conditions and just how you feel. In the beginning, I did not use Pimsleur when I was driving, but I started to do it later and I kind of got used to it. So I'd say it's possible, but please, see, you have to make sure you're safe in terms of your driving, because you can get distracted by something like Pimsleur or something else. So I would say it's up to you. I did it and other people have done it as well, but you have to make that decision for yourself and still pay attention as if you're doing that. Okay, so but I would say, you know what, you still need to, if you want to learn French or any other language, continue to use Pimsleur, because it will really, really help you. Okay, so this is Vladimir, and so this is still, we're still on the topic of Pimsleur Level 1 French, and I have to say that so I live in Canada, and I live in Toronto, Canada. Now, I had to go to Ottawa, Canada. Ottawa is the capital city of Canada, and half of Ottawa is in Quebec, the French-speaking province, and half of Ottawa is in the English-speaking province, Ontario. And so when I went there for a couple of days, and I had a very kind of interesting experience paying for parking. I was, I went to extend my parking, permit, like one of those where you put coins inside and print the time. And when I was doing that, there was an older, woman came and she was, saying something to me, and I didn't realize if she was talking to me or she had an earbuds in and something like that. But anyway, she started. I was still at the parking, payment, thing, and she started to put the coins in the parking, and then she said something to me, and I didn't understand it, but I said 3 heures because it was 3 p.m. and I said 3 heures. And then she heard me say it in French, and then she started talking to me in French, and I did not understand what she was saying much, but a little bit. And so basically I started to speak with this French, well, she's not French, she's Quebecois woman, but my French was very low at this point, and I don't recall. I believe this would have been, I already finished level 1 of French, and I was actually on level 2, but it was just after level 1. And I said, je parle français. And she said, oh, this is good, c'est pratique. I remember she said to me, it's practical, And so, and I said, j'habite au Toronto. And stuff like this, like I live in Toronto, and so there's a few things we said, but to be honest, I knew that was still not enough, so we spoke about 30% French and 70% English, but her English was also very limited, so it was very kind of interesting for both of us speaking half broken French and half broken English, but it was very funny, and anyway, I didn't expect it, but it was cool. And I have to say as well that I also, at the hotel, we stayed at the French kind of on the French side in the hotel, and I came in and I said bonsoir en anglais s'il vous plaît. Like, let's speak English. And anyway, I said some things in French, and I told everybody that I was learning French, so it was good. I was really happy that I was learning French, and I have to say that everybody who I talked to, either in English or French, and I told them I was learning French, they all said, this is great, you should continue learning, we love you, so I just found that when you're learning somebody else's language, people appreciate it. And so I would say, if just keep learn language, it's good, people will like that, and you'll have a lot of fun as well doing that. I mean, it's not easy at some point, but it's a lot of fun. Now, as I also have to say that because I live in Canada, Canada has it's technically French is an official language, but where I live, it's all English. Anyway, so I live in Toronto, and sometimes I have to fly for work from Toronto to New York, US. So Toronto to New York, and I fly on Air Canada, and Air Canada has to make announcements in French as well. And so every time I would fly, I fly about once a month to New York. I would listen to the announcements in French, and every time I would understand more and more and more of what they say and what it means and stuff like that. So it's cool. And also, if I call the government or something like that, sometimes the message would be in French. And before I would just zone out, and I don't understand anything. But now I started to understand what the message is saying, and honestly, it's a little bit scary because now like I actually know what it says. Anyway, but I will say that please, it's still takes time to learn, and Pimsleur Level 1 is gonna give you a great, a great introduction. I will also say that if you're going to visit a French-speaking country, or if you're just going to any country, I would say do level 1 of Pimsleur before you go for traveling in that country, because a lot of what's covered in Pimsleur Level 1 is very, very relevant to traveling. So I strongly recommend, if you have to go to Italy, Spain, I don't know, France, Germany. Well, in Germany they all speak English pretty much, but like any country that you would like to go to, do level 1, of Pimsleur, and it will really help you, like that. So I really, really recommend that. So I would like to just summarize and say, if you wanted to now start learning French or actually any other language, I would say that it's it's relatively simple if you can do it. I recommend that you make a decision that you will finish all Pimsleur levels of the language you want to learn. In this case, I'm talking about French. So I also suggest that you go with the premium version of Pimsleur, and I should clarify, the reason to go with the premium version is because it has more, things you can use to learn, but that becomes very relevant when the language gets harder. So when the language gets harder, it's very good to have more built-in resources, and that's why I switched to premium French on lesson 16 of level 1. So for the first 15 lessons, I was doing only audio Pimsleur, and then I switched to premium. The problem with switching is it's actually two different systems under Pimsleur. And so what happens is you actually completely need to cancel your previous account and you need to create a new account. And the problem is all of your kind of history of what you did is not saved, and you kind of have to do it manually to catch up, to make the lessons complete. And so I found that to be a pain. And also you can't just do it online. You have to call the Pimsleur to, and essentially what they do is they literally cancel one thing and then start a new one. And that's complicated. So I would just recommend that you just, from the beginning, take on the Pimsleur, Pimsleur Premium as well. Actually, not take the one for $1 more. Take the one for the access to all languages. Because what happened was I changed only to French, and then I decided to pay $1 more, and I couldn't change it myself. I had to call them again, and they had to cancel my previous subscription and put me again on this new subscription, for the all languages for $1 more. So I will say that it's just better if you get all languages premium subscription, even if you don't use it. Why? Because it's just going to save you headache and time when you're actually going to learn the language, or and also you'll be able to try some other languages. If you don't like French or whatever, you can go with some other language. Okay. So I think that's important for me to tell you, that just go with the premium because it's a better way to learn a language, especially with Pimsleur. Okay. This is Vladimir, and this is the hours I spent on Pimsleur Level 1 French. you can see in yellow I have about 2,300 minutes on the total over here, which is about 38 hours that I spent on Pimsleur Level 1 French. And the way I did this, I first went through the Level 1, and then actually I started Level 2, and then I came back to review Level 1 when I was doing the videos for Level 1. And this is why you'll see here that, you know, I kind of have end of Level 1 and then I jumped to Level 2 lesson 7, and that's because I was already on Level 2 and I just went back to review Level 1. I have just a big number here because I used to use a different kind of Excel, and I've switched to this in September 2022. And anyway, so that's basically my time for Pimsleur Level 1 French. And, you know, as I said, like, here each lesson is 30 minutes, and there are 30 lessons, and so it should be about, what, 15 hours. So you can say I did roughly, you know, 2.5 times each lesson, but really it's 2 to 3 times depending on the lesson. So anyway, and also this is probably not all the time. I probably forgot to record some time I spent actually doing Pimsleur, so it's probably more than 38 hours. Maybe it's like 45 or 42, but it's about 40 hours on level 1 Pimsleur that I spent doing this. And later on I will have a total for Level 2. And I guess for the people who are curious right now how much I spent on Level 2, that's let's see over here. Well, Level 2 is about 4,000 minutes, which is which is about 67 hours on Pimsleur that I have recorded here. Anyway, this video is for Level 1, and it's 38 hours on Level 1 Pimsleur. Thank you very much for watching this video, and happy 2024 New Year's, and I hope you all have a great 2024. Hopefully you'll study or come back or start a language, any language you want. And I recommend Pimsleur if you start from absolute zero and the language is on Pimsleur, and I recommend you go with the premium version as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.